Right, hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to some more deck review. Now, I'm joined today by a guy who you might have heard of before. He's, what are you, top 100 these days? Top 50, top 10 player? Reborn?
Yeah, well, before I left, I was top 100, sitting at
Yeah,
about 60th overall, just queuing with anyone who's
60th.
on.
Damn. And then obviously, yeah, you've been away for a short while, but yeah, you will be back in after some work commitments. But what I want to talk about is, look, guys, I average at about 2,400. Maybe, obviously it goes up, then I might play a few bad games or charity work, as I like to call it. And obviously the elo is going to drop back down, and as we can see, here it is. Elo, obviously, to a certain extent, don't twist my words, is just a number, to a certain extent. But obviously, when you're looking at perfecting the decks that I show you, they're usually aimed at, the average player. Most of you guys who are watching my channel aren't in the top 1%. And that's who the decks that I show you are based at. Oh, some birds out there. Right, so the El Clasico, Tanks VDV, all fantastic decks, absolutely. We also talked about the laser one, the laser oppression rather. And again, it's a very situational deck, but well, actually, I think it's a decent all-rounder, but it can be a bit clunky, we've established as well. But what I want to talk to you about today, with the help of a top 100 player, is this Moto Guards brigade. So I think it'd be a really good idea for me to take us through with Reborn, giving basically his opinion on the matter, because again, if you want to learn, you better learn from the best. So here we are with Reborn, and essentially he's going to basically critic my deck. Now, what we've got here, I need to start with this, is that this deck was originally built to be 1v1 for a 1v1 competition. I fiddled with it a little bit to change it up, but you can see here, for example, I've only got clusters and fire, right? Because I don't think you need a fighter necessarily in a 1v1 situation. Just bomb the enemy. He's never going to have enough AA, hopefully, or not enough fighter cover to take down your aircraft before it drops the bombs. So, whatever. Anyway, but we're going to be talking about how to use this in a normal 5-stack. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Reborn, how do you see this deck being played in the top 100 in the current sort of meta?
So Moto Guard is probably the most standout deck of Russia. It's been for a very, very long time now.
Yeah.
And the key components to it is that Moto is essentially a mandatory pick for Russia, boasting the tornadoes, the supply points, access to good recon, and good mobility. And essentially this deck plays, depending on how you use it, it plays in all areas of the map. So unlike a lot of Marine Striker or Striker SF, which plays situationally, this deck can play pretty much wherever you need it, and you just slightly tailor a couple of your choices accordingly, so a couple of your variations. But otherwise, this deck pretty much plays wherever, and it plays really as a grind and outplay deck, where you're trying to take advantage of micro predictions, recon advantages, anything like that to really push home your advantage. And it doesn't rely on aircraft, which helps a lot with the current dominance of fighters, which you can get outranged of, because obviously you don't have a 9k fighter. So I think that this deck really showcases a lot of the strengths of what can be used, and the difference. But the people can have very similar decks yet have hugely different results depending on how they play them.
100%, yeah, and I think that is a key thing with Russia these days, is that Moto is one of the most essential decks. You can always win the spam war against America with the tornado, grad, 125 points, like absolute easy win. And of course, yeah, when you use the guards, you get this beautiful little Buratino, which is unbelievably lethal. I think overall, the strengths are obviously you've got a fantastic solid ground presence and obviously overwhelming fire support from, yeah, the literally best 3 fire support units in the game. So, yeah. In terms of air defense, obviously we're quite strong here. And the weaknesses, without a shadow of doubt, are the helicopters and the air tab, right?
Yeah, so I mean, the air tab, you have access to a lot of great options, you just have very small. And the helicopters, while you do have access to the Hotnik and the Phantom is a very average heli normally. The
Yeah.
R60s don't perform comparably to the Sidewinder or a lot of the Igla carriers. And the Hotnik, while having the extra armor. Like the Vicar missiles are pretty average, very low damage, and it's an expensive nuclear carrier. So normally it's just really rocket running, or
The
it's just
attacker.
a very average attack helicopter.
Yeah. The attacker, not Vicar, right?
It doesn't even get them. Yeah, doesn't
Yeah.
even make much of a
No,
difference. The only
no.
difference being the rate of fire.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I only use it as an anti-helicopter anyway. Okay, well, let's talk about the decks one by one and talk about some of the differences that I might be doing at my sort of level. And again, talk about the differences that the stuff that you guys do. I mean, the game is just so different. It's so like, for those who don't know, I've been on a closed PT server where again you're matched with testing out the future features, etc., where you're matched playing against 3,000 players, top 100, whatever. It is, my god, such a pain in the ass to play against people like you. So, yeah, obviously, yeah, you're gonna have a much different approach, I assume, in some parts. So, well, let's talk about it. I mean, GRU, I'm a big fan of using the mixed combo. What about yourself?
I think in general, and my understanding of this has always been the same, is that I think mix is the worst combo, just due to the fact that
Mm-hmm.
three Iglas or Verbers in this case isn't enough to do anything at all.
Yep.
Like normally it's enough to scare them away, you run out of missiles, and three launches against most vehicles, if they have an APS charge, won't be enough to kill them, especially the Bradleys and the higher HP vehicles. So
Yep.
I think that by sitting in the middle and trying to do everything, you take away any real strengths from the squad. So it can be one of the best anti-air squads in the game, and with all the
Mm-hmm.
Verbers, and be a very very strong flank recon, or it can be a very nice AT squad. And I think that depending on how you want to play it, I think both are very viable. I just think sitting with mixed is the argument that I see a lot is that people want to double stack them to get access to more Iglas and more
Yeah.
RPGs, but at that point you're looking at like 200 points and you're a bit blown out of proportion. So
Bit spenny.
I think that in general, I would stick to one or the other, just because the game really highlights being really good at something is better than being average at
Yeah,
multiple
jack of all
things.
trades. Yeah, completely agree with that. The only reason I have them in the mixed is because they're a great opener unit, without a shadow of doubt, and obviously I'll take more than one of these guys for an opener. And they're a very good flanky, just point unit, because obviously if there's any sort of vehicles that come that way, like recon vehicles, bang, clapped. Any helicopters, yeah, you might not shoot it down, but you are definitely going to at least do a bit of damage. The whole purpose of me running these as so is the fact that they're never going to be entirely on their own. They're always going to be like, we've got obviously the RPG 28s are covered with the Motostrelki, and we've got the Verba here as well. And I never want these guys on their own, even though obviously it's quite an expensive squad as is. So, what's your thoughts on that sort of playstyle?
I think that I understand where you're coming from, but it's kind of it's trying to stopgap solve problems rather than address
Mm,
problems. Like I obviously bring all four Verbers in my own decks as well, and using them to cover
yep,
flanks and everything is fine. But the general addition to this deck is that on your front lines, anti-air is handled by some of the best stride options in the game. The Tor, the Derevitsia, and the Osa are very powerful.
yep,
So I feel you don't need it for front line. And if you're going into the thicker things, the extra AT on a 10 armor squad
yeah, sure,
is
yeah.
really nice.
Mm,
And then you can kind of brawl with everything with the guns as well. But I find that if you're in mixed, that you're trying to really solve problems and be prepared for the future in cases where you might sacrifice some additional firepower. And with the like presence of IFVs being very powerful at the moment, especially in openers,
yep.
that not being able to, necessarily just blow through them very quickly can be quite detrimental, and you'll lose fights you shouldn't.
Fair enough. So long story short, I think in this deck, when you've got four Verbers already, best way to go is full AT config, yeah?
Yep, I'd say I currently run them. I
Yeah.
think with the price reductions as well,
Yeah.
they're now very nice.
Yeah, from
Before the price reductions, I
145,
was
yeah.
very hard to justify.
It was, yeah. Yeah. 145 it used to be, and then the other squad 130, and now we're 120, 110, so yeah. Interesting. You taking all three?
I would absolutely take all
Yeah.
three. I think that
Beautiful.
it's a mandatory pick.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, let's move on then. Right, your thoughts on the BRM? I mean, obviously, it used to be crazy, especially with the 1.25 stuff. That's been reduced now. Still quite a capable vehicle, though, isn't it?
I still think it's probably the second strongest recon vehicle in the game. I value it just behind, obviously, the Striker RV. When microed with
Mm-hmm.
access to the Javelin and the Bushmaster is a bit stronger at the moment, but it still wields, a very impressive firepower. It can do a bit of everything, and especially if you're playing a flank, these are absolutely mandatory picks. You have to be able to contest these RV javelins. So they do require a bit more micro. Obviously, to use the gun instead of relying on a javelin or the APS.
Yeah.
So you can't take a hit, but they're very, very strong. And the 57 mil is still a very, very capable weapon.
Yeah, especially this version of the 57. Some people don't realize that the actual difference with these boomerangs, sorry, B15s, is that this 57 is not the same as this one. So what you've got here is a much more powerful gun in terms of the armor penetration for kinetic weapons. So yeah,
Yeah,
big
of
difference
course.
here.
The DPS of the Bushmaster, when doing the maths as well, the Bushmaster 2 is actually pretty comparable to the Short 57,
Mm,
being some of the best capable in terms of it, because the Bushmaster is a slightly faster fire rate, obviously not counting for missed shots, but the Short 57 is definitely underpowered compared to the Long 57,
yeah.
and it's a very
It's
noticeable
painful
difference.
to yeah, it's painful to watch it play, but this thing just performs. It just delivers. It's a great vehicle. Yeah, I absolutely love it as well. You stick. How many are you putting in your decks?
So in general, I try to take two on average. I think that going
Yeah,
much more than that is situational. Like there's some maps where you might want an extra flank one, but I find if you are getting punished, they are still quite an expensive vehicle to be, getting outflanked and outplayed.
yeah, fair enough. Okay, in which case, right, so that's one recon vehicle to talk about. Let's talk about this next one. Now, I've actually recently been trying to use this just for the maximum range and obviously that 3 kilometer laser. That's how I've been running these. Any issues with that one?
I normally would just not bother with the laser setup. I think that at this price point, the difference between 2,000 and 2,400 meters isn't that noticeable in a lot of places. Like,
That's
there's
true.
very few
Yeah,
places on a lot of maps that you'll find it. And when you get, you're both contesting flanks and people are playing flanks super investigative, the present of having an auto cannon is much stronger than sticking to a machine gun.
yeah. It's a good point.
And
Obviously,
that can make a
especially when you
huge
get
difference.
discovered by a helicopter eventually.
Yeah, of course. I mean, everyone probes, and there's that constant check of where you are. There's snipers always going past, and if you have a like a not bushmaster in this case, but a 30 mil, you'll have a much better chance of suppressing and then killing the snipers, especially if they're one of the recon squads that have AT,
Yeah.
and keeping them at a safe distance rather than just the machine gun, which is quite weak.
Yeah, fair enough. In all fairness, yeah, I've been experimenting with this for a while, and yeah, you're right. I just don't notice much actual benefit from the 400 extra. So, yeah, fine. We'll go back to this older way that I used to run it. But obviously, it's a shame to lose the 1.5 stealth, but we make do. Right. Okay. Now, the other hangover that I've got from before this update is obviously the T90 with its insane stealth. I obviously this is just in there as a hangover from that. I don't think there's any point really taking these anymore, is there?
Yeah, I can see an argument for the Abrams, and especially with the absence of top attack armor, the Abrams can really stand out.
Mm,
But it's very hard to justify the 90M just based on how the top attack prevalence is so common,
yeah,
and you're still just getting a gun of a T90 and relying on this for recon or even trying to get quote unquote the first shot. Whereas in most cases, the first shot, even though everyone sees it as kind of recon tanks get the first shot, oftentimes if you're playing well with your own recon, you're spotting a tank by something else before spotting it with your own tank, and that's really where I think a lot of the gap falls in. Like if I have recon established around,
yeah,
I'm not relying on the recon tank to get to the first shot, because any tank could get the first shot because I already have vision over them.
exactly. I mean, that's where the Diversante will step in, right? And ultimately, I mean, obviously, yeah, we know that Russian tanks aren't as powerful penetration wise as the American ones. And honestly, for that price point, I mean, there's many better options in the vehicle tab. I mean, that 0.25 stealth is barely a fraction. The biggest issue I have with this tank as well, with its reduced stuff these days, is the fact that obviously their whole sort of design, or the idea on paper, is the fact that they sit on the flank. And like you said, with the abundance of American top attack, as soon as a helicopter discovers it, 2 missiles in the top, gone. See you later. No chance to recover there. So it makes it a very expensive and pointless flank sitter. So yeah, that's where you stick to these BRMs for sure, in my books.
Yeah, I mean that it's just expensive, and the reality is that a Comanche goes around the flank happens all the time, even at all levels of play.
Yeah.
Comanche or two Comanches normally come in a pair. They'll spot you well before you spot them, and they'll just fire the two missiles. And
See you
unless you're
later.
on point
Yeah.
with your outside recon, you're just gone just like that.
Yeah. So to be fair, I'd rather take these because at least they've got a chance of shooting the helis down quite well, actually. Okay, yeah. In terms of Diversante, obviously, yeah, one of the best sniper squads in the game. 3 stealth, 2,000 vision, good sniper squad, laser, smoke, which is reasonable, and the fact that you get assault rifles means that if you do walk into another sniper squad, you're gonna beat it.
Yeah, pretty much sums it up. They're jack of all trades for snipers. You're not going to snipe anyone, but nor is actively sniping really encouraged. It's
No.
normally a way
Yeah.
to, especially if someone's watching, to immediately give away your sniper's position. Force fire, even if they can't see you, will immediately kind of cripple squads. And
Yeah.
Divisante being the only option here are by no means a bad option. I definitely don't like the other loadout, which I see some people running.
Yeah.
I think the informer loadout stands out as being really strong, whereas like you're getting the gimmick launcher and the RPG-30, but you're losing your
Yeah.
snipers, you're losing your vision,
I mean, it's
and
still a
the
very expensive
RPG-30 is
squad.
nice, but you're a 4-man squad, and
Yeah.
even though they're disposable, you lose a few members, and all of a sudden they're not disposable anymore because you only have 2 launchers.
No, exactly. Yeah, as soon as you lose a man, that's it. Your launch is gone. I mean, yeah, it would be. I've never actually tried doing this, but I've considered running them as BTRs, jump out boys, and yeah, just driving up to the tank, smoke, whatever. But it's just more of a fun sort of video kind of idea as opposed to an actual serious game-winning strat. So yeah, definitely not worth it. And even when you do pick them, put them into the back line, yeah, sure, they'll get some kills, but you know, sidearm exists, and if you're ambushing, these guys are honestly a better option and cheaper. Like as in
Yeah, I mean
on
the
the supply
Guardi getting
routes.
their buff is so handy. They actually feel
Yeah,
competitive now. Before,
yeah,
it's very hard to justify them for anything more than pure, you kind of raw AT, but now they feel like they're in a very good place for
yeah.
what they should have been probably since launch.
Another thing is, yeah, especially with the obviously the bonus bazooka. Gvardi, why does it say that it's Gvardia? The guards, stupid transcripts. Anyway, last vehicle that we need to mention on here is okay. Yeah, drone is obviously a drone. For me, that's just clearing out the back lines. That's literally its only purpose. Obviously, Russian drones are quite shit overall. Yeah, anything to add to this one?
No, I mean the thing is with all the low flying drones is that a lot of them are just kind of a knee jerk reaction or throw them out on the flank if you
Yeah,
desperately need. But they're nice to have. Whether they see any game time is probably pretty a different story. But I would take them, and I pretty much see everyone take them just in case.
yeah.
They're a nice little. Something's
It's
gone
only
terribly
75
wrong. I need
points.
a
Yeah,
cheap
exactly.
option. Then send it out.
Yeah, yeah, happy days. And of course, my beloved Cossack. Now, you definitely can't talk me out of taking all 3 of these because I absolutely love these. I think, look, there's a bit of a heated discussion about Lima specials and whether they're ever worth it, especially at high elo. Obviously, look, in my eyes, for 45 points, risk it for a biscuit, send it in. You might lose it. Probably, I mean, I'd say probably 60% of the time, 75% of the time, you're going to lose this without trading anything. But for 45 points, do you really care? Because obviously, if you do get the trade-off, that they miss a gap, or you just get lucky with the timing of the crossing of the route. Obviously, that's a pack 2, maybe an MLRS or RT destroyed in the back as well. So, in my eyes, worth it 100% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hit and miss to be honest.
Yeah.
Everything at high low, like flank play and everything, and I kind of see this argument a lot is that flanks and everything doesn't work at high low, but I see it happen all the time, and I used to obviously play flanks for around and with some of the best players in the
Mm-hmm.
game, and
Go on, name drop.
the
Drop a
no
name.
flank is perfect.
Who's
I
that?
mean, I played with and against Benji's stack many times.
Yeah.
I've played with and against none a few times. Ashera and the Chinese teams, and all of
Mm-hmm.
them I've played both with and against them. Ashera being the same time zone as myself when I'm actively playing. We played quite a few games, and
Yeah.
honestly, one of the best matchups I've ever had was on the eye point on Rooter Forest,
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
me and Ashera battled it out until my teammate collapsed. We were just playing because I was just with a normal like 2,400 stack, and my left flank collapsed. But before then, for probably about first 15 minutes, I think the KD was 1.00 for both of us. So it was a really nice
Yeah.
both going around the flank. But these things happen, and the reality is that holes will be everywhere, and this is it,
Yeah.
especially a highlight. You
No
might
matter
not
how
have
good you are, you
people
can't
don't have it
cover.
as good as they think. Like
Yeah.
I might have recon everywhere, but there will be a hole, and if you know how to get through it, or you
Mm.
slip through it, you're
And
not really risking a lot.
especially,
Like 45 points is fuck all, to be honest, and
yeah.
people kind of overestimate how much that is. Like it's two of those equals one sniper team, and sniper teams die all the time. So
Yeah, yeah, sorry for interrupting you there. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I say, it's just worth it, isn't it? No, even the best player can't be in every single position at once, and especially in the early game, yeah, obviously, yeah, before the recon is established, it's again, I just think it's absolutely worth it. 1.25 stealth as well. Nice little addition. By the way, people do ask me what's the best configuration. It is the gun, without a shadow of doubt. It's the only one that can fire on the move. This missile. How do you say this missile? Reborn.
yeah, I would not be pronouncing that, but I definitely agree that out of all of them,
Yeah.
the gun is. I mean, the SPG 9 is just it's a very average weapon, and
Yeah.
it used to be good used on the ground when it used to be a two per squad,
Yeah.
but it's just an average weapon. The machine gun's very nice. Machine guns are always pretty nice on flanks, so
Yeah,
that's
with
definitely a good
with the
option.
speed and with a bit of desync, this thing can evade some RPGs, depending on the range, of course. But yeah, some RPGs will miss this if it's driving flat out, which is nice. Right, okay. Well, that's the recon tab, I think, fairly well nailed. 20 minutes we'd be spending just on that one, so I think we should speed it up when we talk about the rest. I mean, it will get a lot quicker at the end when there's a lot less options. But how about you just look at my infantry tab here, and just give me a quick summary of what's good, what's bad.
Okay, so well, there's kind of the go-to options you always have in the stack. You need Gavadi, you
Yep.
need Verba, you need Sturmoviki, you need SSO. You normally take a corner, which is obviously pretty good. And SSO, I would always go 3 out of 3. I think they're the standout squad for Russia. Really good
Mm-hmm.
side screw.
Yep.
Moda Pakoda with the AGS now is really potent. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually surprisingly potent. And I think that those are kind of the standout squads. I think that with Gavadi now being upgraded, the Moda Pakoda doesn't see as much use as it used to. Gavadi now kind of take
Yep.
over its role,
Mm-hmm.
being a jack of all trades. But I would then replace it, with either more AGS or just some more transports. And I think for in terms of transports, didn't really cover them. My go-to setup normally is about 4 or 5 BTRs total,
Mm-hmm.
being a nice cheap transport. 2 or 3 of the boomerangs with no upgrades except the armor for a cheap transport,
Okay, let me just configure
and
that.
then
Yeah.
and then I would do
Up arm
normally
modes.
2 actual boomerangs. Yeah, just to survive a hellfire,
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, why not? Makes sense. I mean, what are your
and then
thoughts on
yeah.
people running it with APS?
I mean, you're just a very expensive tin can.
Yeah, I agree.
You
Yeah.
start like it starts becoming worth more than another infantry squad.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to justify in my opinion. But like an up armoring to get access to surviving a hellfire can be huge. If you get stranded down the middle of the open field, you may
Yeah.
as well have your squad be killed.
Yeah, valid.
But I think that in general that's kind of one of the go-to transports here. Otherwise, I like the B-15. I don't like the B-11. I think I run normally 2 boomerangs as well, which like fully done up K-17s. And I
Yeah.
think that if you're going to run the boomerang module, just run a boomerang. And the Apoka is very, very high value. But I will say is that particularly if this is obviously people are looking at this from a lower elo, lower micro standpoint, the Apoka especially, the B-15 is very high value, very high risk. It can get amazing value. But
Yeah.
if you lose it, it is very expensive.
And obviously, it's still one shot by Hellfires as well, which is a really irritating feature of this vehicle. I don't get how this is 2 shot, this is 1. It doesn't make sense, but that's broken arrow logic for you. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's more of a balance issue with the Hellfire, but I think the Hellfire
yeah.
across the board is obviously very strong. So
Yeah, fair enough. I did experiment with, especially when have you ever seen the devs play? They love this vehicle. They absolutely love spamming it out all the time. And yeah, I did have a go with it, but it doesn't quite tickle my pickle. I think it's a bit expensive for what it is. I mean, this vehicle in itself is a bit expensive for what it is. I mean, in all fairness, you're right that if you just want 80 gems, the cornets, then stick to the K17. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's faster, cheaper. So, I might actually remove that. What are your thoughts on the BMOT?
uh Okay, so I like it and I don't like it at the same time. It's a bit hit and
Mm,
miss for me at the moment. I think that the problem for me with it is that there's not a lot of Gavati squads to put it on.
yeah,
And the problem with the BMOT is that it's very, very nice for running in, and it used to be super strong at this, but now that suppression carries over, it's not as useful. So it used to be very good for, you just face unload and you just eat rockets if you need to. But now that you have this suppression transfers to infantry, a lot of the time now it's about getting out before you get hit.
yeah. Which is where the
And if
speed,
you're getting out
obviously,
before you get
yeah,
hit, you're just paying for a more expensive, very, very
slower.
slow troop carrier.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even when you upgrade the engine to price 70, that's not gonna tickle my pickle, that's for sure. Yeah, you're right. I've actually never thought about this for. I've never upgraded the K16 to just the armor before, but yeah, that is actually something that's new for me here. I'd always just run it cheap, just to, yeah, get squads in fast and to evacuate pilots, etc. Which don't drop in the game for whatever reason anymore. I'm sure that's a bug that they'll fix, but we'll see. Yeah. So fair enough. That's actually a good point. Especially gives you a second chance that if for whatever reason you've mistimed your smoke or you do take the hit, then that's fine. Your infantry can crack on and jump out, smoke it for you as well for the next shell. So it does give you an extra sort of life there, which is nice. Yeah, anything else on the I mean, you've actually blitzed through it really nicely. The only reason I've had the Motte Pijote in is just basically an extra bit of cheap spam. But you're right, when you've got obviously the Guardia, obviously there's only 4 squads and they're not the toughest of guys, but these are basically the guys that are the meat shield for these guys, is how I'm sort of trying to play it. But you said you'd rather just, go for more AGSs instead?
I think you go more AGS or even just more access to some better IFVs. I think the other important note now is that their Motor Pagoda AGS kind of steals the thunder of Motor Pagoda for 5 more points.
Yeah, it does.
You're
Yeah,
still in that
massively.
8-man squad, but now you're getting an AGS with it. And the AGS is
Yeah,
obviously a very, very powerful weapon, and it can help equalize a lot of those ranges. So you can't, if you're getting picked apart by Rangers Javelin and these other really high powered machine guns,
yeah,
the Motor Pagoda AGS can really help equalize that. I think the only other thing to really note is that
100%.
SSO,
Mm-hmm.
both variants, I see it a lot, is that people normally swear by one version or another. Honestly, I think both are very strong and capable at the moment. I think that on some maps, it's a no-brainer to choice to take standoff. On some maps, it's
Yeah,
no-brainer choice to take
yeah,
CQC. So I think that I normally run 2 variations of the deck with just one in standoff, one in CQC. But
yeah, depending.
honestly,
Oh,
it's
okay, fair enough. Well,
whatever you get used to. And if you're not used to swapping and you can't remember which one you've chosen, then just stick to the same one as always.
yeah, I tend to use the men's standoff because obviously it is the only squad in this sort of. It's a unique squad with the standoff. Obviously, there's comparisons with the CQB version, but this is unique. And the reason I like to use them instead is because the way I see it is you're never going to win door kicking, so actual CQB. The Russians are never going to win, right? If you're doing it properly. So the only thing you do stand a chance of winning is the medium and long range engagement, which is why I prefer to just go down fully down that sort of line instead. The other point about the Moto Pijote, you're absolutely right as well. So these RPGs, obviously, yeah, the Moto Pijote AGS have them. These guys, yeah, okay, they've had 3 extras, but that's kind of unmatched to these. Now that I've gone for the GRU, so having changed the loadout to fully RPG, yeah, you're right, I don't really see much purpose for them. The only thing is, obviously, they're providing me a few extra transports, so that's the kind of reason they're in there, but of course we can switch it around to just I'll keep 2 squads in just for meat grinder for when these guys die out, but otherwise they're not going to be used much at all really in this deck. They're there just for the transports really, so there we go. Sweet, happy days. Are you putting 4 of them in?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Hey, okay.
there's your, if you really want a true meat grinder, they used to be super strong, being, they
They're
were,
still
when
pretty good, yeah.
they were 10 armor and 50 points, but they're still a
Yeah.
very, very like annoying squad and cheap squad now.
Yeah, easy to spam out. 600 meter range, obviously quite tasty, especially for those. I can't remember. Last time I tested it, these guys did. I think they beat a next generation squad at 600 meters. I can't remember that for 100% sure if it was like super close. But obviously, you're talking about. Let's have a look at it here. The Americans. airborne next gen. So you're talking about a 90 squad, 90 point squad versus obviously a 55 point squad. So even if these guys won, it's obviously, you know, not worth it for them there. Right, back onto the 1v1 deck. Right, I think the armor tab. So basically, so far we're mostly in agreement. Obviously, I've made small changes to the Recon tab, minor changes to the Infantry. Let's talk about the vehicles, because this is where you and I definitely run things very differently. Yeah, you don't even run the Armata anymore.
No, I once the problem really comes is that a
Well, look,
lot of
Magnet.
the meta positions from America have natural counters, and as a lot of people obviously complain about the Armada currently being quote unquote too strong, and you see it a lot, but the reality is that in a lot of ways it's just comparable to a V3. In a straight up fight between the two, it's very coin flippy between on crits and such, but you're paying for a 400 point tank. And if you look at probably the most played deck at the moment, which is anything with Striker has so many natural counters to a T14, and it's present in almost all of their tabs. So Striker obviously features the two F-16s, the Viper and the Fighting Falcon.
Yeah.
Fighting Falcon with four 2,000 pounders. You're talking about 200 points. Make sure some of the bombs land behind the enemy tank, and you're going to kill it, 10 times out of 10. And when I was playing recently, I noticed that, you can get fairly consistent at this with very little practice. And, these Fighting Falcons and with these late bombing runs you can do, because it's a pop-up bombing run, you're going to get in and you're going to drop and you will kill the tank. And then obviously the Viper,
Yeah.
you just go
With its
4J cells,
yeah, exactly.
bombing
Yeah.
run it, and if you want to guaranteed kill 4J cells, it's just a no-brainer. And the thing with these planes is, you're 10 points or so more expensive. I think even less than that if you take the
Yeah,
outer
you can.
pylons
Yeah.
cheaper. You're paying 390, they're paying 420 normally.
Yeah.
But they're paying upkeep. They've got a huge, they've got a delay time on it. They're giving up a lot of their vehicle options for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas, you're in and out in 5 seconds or 10 seconds, and you've
Wow.
got
That's what you tell your
you know,
fiance.
but at the end of the day, the thing with this, don't even need to be accurate. 3 J cells kills it, and J cells obviously have huge effect. They really don't care about what you have to say. And if you're paying what 10 points of upkeep, if that, whereas the Armada is charging full upkeep at 420 points. It is a very expensive unit in that regards.
Yeah, exactly. And what actually annoys me is seeing comments where people say, "Oh yeah, but you're not even trading up." But forget about trading up. There's also even with forget about the points spent on the field, blah blah blah. It's also about the potential, like the amount of potential the Armata can cause in terms of damage to you is huge. Taking it off the field is a priority, and obviously it's sort of the opportunity cost of the amount of troops you could have potentially lost if it manages to do a breakthrough.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, the other thing that the Armada really struggles with now is that obviously people don't like it, but the V3 and the Thunderbolt and all these other options will comparatively duel with an Armada. If you go two Thunderbolts,
Yeah.
a step V3 again, first shot really matters.
Yeah.
That these units can come in super cheap. We're talking about 280 points for a V3.
Yeah.
We're talking about 140, 100. I think it's
Yeah.
160
100%.
points. So it's very hard to go and get the value for it now. And the upside obviously being your reverse speed and your capabilities, but there really is that question of if even with all the capabilities, can you justify it for a price point where when tank meta can become cheaper, and if you want to really be all over your micro, cheaper tanks can be very effective. And at that point, you're never going to trade positive. If the V3 costs 280 points, you're
Yeah.
spending 140 points more.
It's important to note as well that unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of this, but the Sep V3, the Armata, they all take 3 shots to kill. The Sep V2 is also 3 shots to kill, depending on range from the Armata as well. So yeah, this is where again you do need quantities behind your firepower. You do need the number of hits. I think the Armata and Sep V3 should 2-shot everything, but that's not currently how the devs have chosen to go this way, so we have to adapt to it. Right. Yeah, so you're adamant that Marta's not going to go in. I think for my level, so I'm going to keep it in just because obviously my level's different to yours. These work a treat. Now they are still bullet magnets, but if you keep it moving and you keep it smoking, you always have a smoke ready. You manage to get away with a lot more than you would with your opposition that you face, because obviously that
Yeah, of course.
yeah. So for me, it's still super useful. The top attack missile, yeah, never been a huge fan of it. I do obviously see the benefit of it, but when you only have one Armata in the deck, is there really much point with the top attack? No, not too sure. The guns themselves are good
The
enough.
way I see the top attack, and the reason I will always take it, is that it essentially punishes people for cheaping out on their tank because it is a top attack, and the tank will actively choose to fire it. It makes tanks 2-shot instead of 3-shot, and it can be
Yeah,
really punishing if you're fighting people who aren't smoking exactly after they fire and then trying to use the old fire out of smoke and all of those kind of mechanics. Then
yeah.
having the top attack missile can be really strong. You know, a leopard especially, the leopard taken cheap can be super detrimental to the T14, and the ability to then just hit it and two tap it really helps your case. And it's a javelin equivalent, it's a terminal guidance equivalent compared to a semi-active of the non-upgraded missile.
Yeah,
So that really helps it as well.
yeah. Fire and Fury. Kind of crazy that a tank shell can do that, but that's again not the point. Okay, so right with my tab as it is, the way I've run my tanks, and I've been doing this, is having an expensive option, a medium option, and a cheap option. Usually, this works actually so much better with the VDV guards combo because obviously the spruts are great for their price, especially. But what would you say with this combo right here?
I think that the T90s, the base T90s now,
Yeah.
just like the T90A, so the ones you have at 170, are very hard to justify in the current meta. I think that the gun is horrific. It's a very
Yep.
low caliber gun. It can take, I believe it's a 4-shot kill. You know, you're trying to compare it to stuff like the HC, which massively outclasses it.
Yep.
And if you take it unupgraded, you're essentially trying to fight the old Booker meta. But Booker's obviously fell out of that, and for the same sort of price, you know, you're dealing with like Striker MGS and all these other units which are far cheaper, have APS and a lot more capabilities. I used to like the draws. I mean, everyone used to swear by the draws, but especially now with the
Yeah.
current meta, and I think that if you don't have a lot of these heavier tanks, if the enemy starts bringing out HCs, they bring out the FEP, you know, a lot of these very common tanks, the FEP, the Leopard, the
Yeah.
V3, the V2, the HCs, they're very capable tanks, and it's very hard to answer to them. I think that in general now there's a couple of key things that this tab has where you need heavy tanks, you need the T15. Everyone hates it, everyone loves it, everyone has an opinion on it.
Yeah.
It's still
Yeah.
probably a very solid IFE. It's by no means super strong. I think it's hard to justify in its 50 mil model because you're forcing a close range fight now, and AT is very
Yeah.
capable. But in the 30 mil, you know, being essentially a very, very tanky boomerang, very, very potent weapon to be used.
Yeah.
And
Can take
the
quite a few hits.
Terminator,
Yep.
I think, I'm not sure where it stands. I like it and I don't like it. There's a bit of a conversation. I think it definitely needs to be fully upgraded to be usable now because you definitely need the suppression. Otherwise, the
Ah.
capabilities are too much. If you're not actively suppressing them as fast as possible, and these squads start, like particularly troopers, start ripple firing their missiles,
Mm.
so they're both their AT from their 84s and their javelin, you can very quickly be overwhelmed. And as soon as you're crit, it's over.
Okay, that's interesting that you say that. So I think I used to always run these maxed out, which is obviously a great amount of firepower, lovely vehicle to use, etc. But I've been finding that for 220 points, it's just a little bit expensive for what it can actually do. And I've just recently started experimenting with the base model because obviously it doesn't affect the speed. You still get above the 15 HP from Hellfire's defense, and you still get these attack and missiles, which obviously fire on the move, very, very useful. I've recently been experimenting with this and having not exactly the like I'm not saying this is super effective, but I'm saying for the price it trades a lot better than this configuration, because obviously it's a 60-point difference, not the biggest difference in the world, but that's how I've been rolling it recently. So yeah, again, probably the difference between my and your elo sort of approach here, where yeah.
Well, the thing with the Terminator is that its kind of position in the meta is hard to define now. It once upon a time was super oppressive, and then it was obviously made completely too expensive to run,
Yep.
and now trying to find that middle ground. And for essentially being what
It
it
used to
is,
be
and
190 points fully upgraded.
it's yeah,
Yeah.
190 full.
Yeah.
Then it went up to 250, and we're back down at 220.
Yeah.
And a couple of things to note is that the HP point for tanks and like medium sized vehicles is to note is 16 HP or 17 HP.
Yep.
You want to be above. You want to be 17 HP or above, as it lets you survive 2 J cells. So
Yep.
that's the next HP breakpoint. That's of important note. But the big issue here stands that with the Terminator and its essential place is that you're trying to compete in a tab where points are very limited, only 1750 compared to a lot of, the 2000 plus vehicle tabs found elsewhere. And you're fighting, especially with the current meta being, you got Marine Striker, you've got Striker SF, Baltic SF,
Yeah.
anything with Marine and Armored, and there's so much top attack running around.
I was
And
about to say, yeah,
it's it's
abundance.
it's one of the reasons that I will run it fully upgraded to get the suppression. But it's if you miss micro them and you look away for a second, they will die. There's
Yeah.
no two ways
You
about
have
it,
to baby
and
them, and it's
they're
the
just
same with
gone.
all Russian tanks. Even with the APS protection, like obviously the chances are you're gonna have 2 javelins firing these days more often than not. So yeah, any tank. It's the same for Americans as well. Any high value asset in general, you need to baby it, and these are obviously high value assets. Okay, you know what? I'll go with you. I've tested it on the 160 point version. It was fine. It traded fairly well. I'll try this again because again with the 2 smokes, yeah, you're right. There's just a lot more firepower. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'll let you know how I get on.
But yeah, otherwise, I mean, I think the Droz is the interesting point now, and I think that
Yeah,
honestly, the Droz get swapped with the T15 now. The gun is just too weak. It used to be that it was more about fighting fire support, but tank meta is very strong, and the HCs will come out and they will absolutely bully the Droz. And these other
that's
heavier
true.
tanks, the
Yeah.
Droz does 4 or 5 shots to kill some of the heavier tanks. It is such
Oh
an
no, the
underpowered tank with
gunners.
its main
Yeah, yeah,
gun.
yeah. No, we're definitely not the gun. Yeah, the gun is shit. The armor's pretty shit as well. This is too shop for a set V3 or V2. Yeah, the only reason that these are useful is when there's IFV spam, really, because it's got a good fire rate still. 6 to 7 seconds is absolutely respectable. Obviously, it's slightly slower for the T90 when you go for the base T90 as well. That's pretty slow. So the only reason that I really have these is for the extra fire support, as you say, with a little bit of resilience. So for example, obviously a striker will fire 1 javelin whilst you hit it, you can absorb it, fire again. And that's the whole sort of philosophy behind these guys supporting the Armata. But yeah, you're right, with the tank meta these days, you absolutely need a bit of extra firepower and a bit of extra bomberage as well, which is probably the next thing that we're going to talk onto before we make this video way too long. Right, so shall we blitz through the support tab? I think this one's going to be pretty easy because S300 is the best Russian air defense, no doubt about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the favorite's been the go-to for a while. The favorite, the
Yeah.
anti, both 4 missile configs, pretty much the gold standard. Don't take the upgraded missiles. There's a couple of reasons for their upgraded missiles. The favorite has worse missile performance. If you upgrade it, it takes a second longer to reach max speed.
I
And
did not know
the
that.
actual noticeable range difference is minimal. 150 times 3, you're only looking at 450 more meters.
Yeah,
The odds
exactly.
of intercepting at that range is much less, and the speed difference is huge.
Yep.
And particularly when these things used to get out beyond 8 kilometers, you would actually cause that glitch where you see it all the time where air defense kept aiming and aiming and aiming. And oftentimes that was due to someone else spotting or something else spotting the the airplane itself, and your S300 that's beyond its own vision range trying to take over, intercepting the target.
Mm-hmm.
So if stick to under 8Ks, you only spot at 8Ks with radar on, but at 200 points and
Yeah.
same with the anti, the same thing. Just be aware of the speeds, obviously, especially if you're used to playing around the packs. That these are very, very slow.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, Buck M2 is actually great again, but it is just, yeah, we've talked about this before, where the 1,500 meter range downgrade with the radar is just too much. Like, yeah, I do agree with that. Even though 150 points does make it pretty attractive to stick a bit deeper in, worth. Closer to the front line, and still, obviously, the one shot is a very attractive option too. And yeah, you're right. I've never ever used it. Well, maybe once or twice to try it, but I've never used it with the upgrade. It's just too expensive for what it is as well. Asa, this is my favorite shore ad in the game, especially for the price. I can't go wrong, can you?
I mean, Oster and Tor, the trade off between the two is minimal. The Oster being Oster having slightly better on road, slightly worse off road, and vice versa for the Tor. The top attack, the actual, now that cold launch isn't as bad as it used to be, especially now that the gap's a bit closer, but in general, just play whichever one you prefer. There's not a lot of difference. They both get one tapped by Hellfire. They both are absolutely terrible at defending themselves from Seed. So,
Yep. Well,
but
the
either
big
way,
difference
they're just
is
really what you
hold
want.
on, hold on. The biggest difference is obviously that this can one shot. This can't possibly one shot healers.
15 damage always rounds down to 14.9, even against 10 armor. So will
Oh
always
really?
two shot Apache.
I swear
So
I've
it's the
seen
same thing
these
why
one shot. Or
Hellfire has
yeah,
15 HP, but it always rounds down to 14.999 because there's 900 for the Hellfire. So any armor in general, you take one less point of damage off its equivalent damage. So we go down to
yeah,
14.99. Obviously, doesn't
S-
apply to stuff like the little birds, the 12 HP helicopters. They'll
yeah,
get
yeah,
one
yeah.
shot by both regardless.
Yeah. Okay. I swear maybe it's been like a yeah on 14.98 health, and this is one shot at it. But like yeah. Okay, fair enough. Good
Yeah,
to
of
know.
course, a machine gun shot lands
Splash.
or something and you don't see it and
Yeah.
drops a single HP point, you're now one
Yeah,
shotting
or a
the
bit of
helicopter.
splash damage, but either way, I just tend to have so much more luck with these guys compared to the tour. I don't like the tour. Yeah, I'll take this guy any day. Ural, yeah, lots of troops, lots of supply. Move on. Tornado, Grad, Buratino. Like, this is without a shadow of doubt the best MLRS in the game. You're always going to defeat Americans with it. Like, you can always outgun Americans with the sheer volume of fire, especially when it comes to these cheap guys. Like, I mean, I never see them in cluster or incendiary. Like, once in a blue moon, high explosive is absolutely the way to go. And the toss is obviously just going to absolutely level the playing field wherever it goes. So, yeah, keep that fire support up. Would you say 3 of these guys is a little bit excessive, or fuck them, keep the fire support up?
So, well, the reality is that, like a side note, is I'd always say the toss upgraded. Some people swear by it not, but lose an extra couple of rockets to take the range. I'd rather not be within
Yeah.
1,500 meters of anything American. If I'm within javelin range, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And But yeah, I mean, the thing with the grad is, and it used to be meta, and a lot of people, I mean, as if keeping up to the game, cluster used to be insanely strong in the grad, but taking a half damage nerf really removed cluster as a
Yeah.
valid option,
Yeah.
going from 3 to 1.5. And I think that keeping all three, I don't know if you need necessarily both tosses at the same time, but the reality still stands that if America starts to spam these infantry over and over again, you cannot try to go toe to toe with them. Like, you can't try to now contest, Marine without having all this overwhelming fire support behind you. The reality of how the game plays, Marine and Striker, and what makes it so potent is its infantry.
Hmm.
And so you have to kind of resort to these options. I think that the play style difference between the Tornado and the Grad and the Toss changes a bit more with Elo, a lot more pre-firing, predicting where your opponent's going to be. And
Sure.
I,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see it all the time
Absolutely.
lead to
Yeah.
cheater accusations. If I've played for
Yeah.
hundreds of games on this map and I know where the best spots to be
Oh,
are, I'm
100%.
going to
Yeah.
pre-fire those
Yeah.
spots and people are going to
You don't need
accuse
to
me of
be
being
that high
cheating.
elo for that. To be fair, I've seen it a lot as well. Yeah.
So,
Pre-aiming
but
spots
if you're
is just
fighting it,
goated. Yeah.
don't stand somewhere common.
Yeah.
Just try to move. If you're fighting this and you're fighting it oppressive and you're fighting it from the American point of view, stay mobile. Don't get caught up in the common spots because you will be punished over and over again for it.
Yeah. Yeah, big problem with RT spam in general. I wish to see less of this, but unfortunately it is the meta, so I'm going to use it. I don't like it, but it's rude not to use it these days, honestly. Extra camo for extra damage, right? Smoke mortar, absolute no-brainer. You always have to have one in your deck. I used to have the Dirivata instead, because obviously when you're 1v1, smoke, it's going to take too long to get the smoke out, and you'd rather spend your points on racier BTRs that can cover more ground. Okay, moving on. So these bits should be short. Now, obviously, helicopters and air is the worst part of this deck. this setup I've gone for, and feel free to absolutely rip it apart, is the Mi-28 as an anti-air helicopter. Actually, yeah, sorry, should always take S-13s, my mistake. Mi-28, again, just remember this is a 1v1 config. This is actually a much better version in my opinion. Would you agree?
I think that I don't like the MI24
No.
anymore. I think that
But,
the
I mean, what else am I going
Phantom
to
does
stick
it
in?
better. I think the Phantom for the 4, I mean, the Phantom is just the go-to at the moment. It's kind of the stopgap to have, the 4R60s, and taking double Phantoms always very strong. And I still stand by that. I think that, don't expect any miracles. You're not trying to trade perfectly with the United States, but if you need a solution, there it is. I wouldn't bother with the Coconut. It is just such a terrible missile.
Yeah.
It is beyond atrocious. And for the Mi-28, there's lots of ways to run it. I don't like it as a pure Igloo carrier just because you have to trade so many aircraft out or so many helicopters to win. So I think its
But
trade
but
value
when
is
the
horrendous.
when the killer egg flank comes around, like these are obviously an absolute lifesaver, no?
I think you just buy 2 Phantoms and it does far better because the big thing with the killer eggs is you need fire rate, because otherwise
Yeah,
they
yeah,
can,
yeah.
if they have 2 aircraft firing, then you're taking down 2 in one volley rather than taking down 1, and that can be a huge ripper. And the Hotnik I prefer to run. I think there's kind of 3 thought processes behind the Hotnik at the moment.
This is one of
I
them,
think
obviously.
generally of course, and I would always
Yeah,
take its radar upgrade. I think with its radar and with its rockets, it's a very, very potent weapon, especially for something
ballast.
cheap.
Yeah,
If you lose it, who cares? It's
yeah.
it's very, very effective. S13 is very good. The other 2 options are the completely mixed loadout, so attackers and igglers, and just be a kind of an all rounder, or the
Yeah.
full attacker loadout, which I think is probably the worst of the 3. But I would say that in general, for most people, I would recommend just
Yeah.
use it as a rocket runner.
You are never
It's
going to fire
probably one of the
16
best
attackers.
rocket runners in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, you're never going to fire 16 attackers ever without getting shot down. So what's the point? Yeah. Yeah. S13s, yeah, these, by the way, will kill a ZV3 with about, I don't know, 14 rockets usually is what it takes, something like that. Obviously, depending on the range, depending on how many miss, but yeah, so you will kill basically any tank with 1 volley, provided they don't smoke off. So yeah, for 165 points, that makes it worth it every day of the week. Transport heli, we can afford one. Stick one in.
Yeah, I think I detest using them, but I would always take one just in case. I wouldn't go
Yeah,
anymore.
it
People
has its
swear by
place.
them, but you just get spotted landing, and your supplies can be gone in 5 seconds time.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is just sort of a reserve for some special situations. Right, air tab. Now, yeah, I've already talked about this. This is just for bombing enemy tanks, really, when I play 1v1. Otherwise, yeah, what are we going to do about this?
I think that, and people absolutely hate this. I think you get your bomber down to at least 1, and you change its config. So you go.
The
The
cheaper, the
meta
250s.
config is no, it's you go to your fuselage and you put on the cluster bombs like the RPK 500s,
Uh-huh.
and then you go to your inner pylons and make them fuel tanks, and you make your outer pylons the fire bombs, and that's enough to kill any tank in the game and deal damage to infantry. If you want to go the extra cluster, you can pay 20 points more, and it'll just wipe them out, whereas the fire will kill them otherwise, like in the outer pylons. So 4 cluster takes the tank down to 8, does 18 damage, and the remaining 1 damage burns out on the fire for the mass turret.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But
And that's
the one thing I change is basically the reason I run it like this is we're about to see is obviously that you get 2 extra clusters and 1 extra firebomb for the sake of 55 points. Now, obviously, when you're paying 300, I don't think it's the biggest change. Why has it done that? Right, okay. Either way, take my word for it. It's 55 points difference. The reason for this config, especially for my level, is the fact that I'm going to miss a lot more than you. So, one tank might get slightly missed, so that's why I need the extra 2 clusters to cover that sort of lapse in my skill. And obviously the
yeah, of
free
course. I mean,
fire
it
bombs.
happens. You see it all the
Yeah,
time. People would love to claim that the cluster bombs are 100% accurate, but
nah, yeah.
everyone misses occasionally, and It's not uncommon. I mean, they're not J cells. You know, you have to be very, very accurate with these bombs.
Yeah. And 6 does cover a larger area, so that if there's another vehicle, there you go, there's another frag for you. And same with the fire bombs, just covers a larger area, so again, it just puts an extra span in the works. I think it's worth it all day long for the 55-point difference there. Um, we do need a fighter, don't we? Every deck's got to have a
Of
fighter these
course.
days. Yeah, again, not in my 1v1 config, but there we go. Running out of points very quickly in this tab, very painful. Seed, especially taking 3 seed, is basically not worth it these days, is it?
No, I think seed, and this would be very controversial. In seed in general, unless you're playing with a coordinated team that wants to do something with it,
Yeah.
you're not really getting any value from it. And people seem to swear by it and swear that it's gonna do a lot of things, but the reality behind it stands is that seed is a resource that depends on your enemy making a mistake.
No.
This isn't something that micro and I can force him to lose something. If he's manipulating it, if he's playing as fighters, seed will always feed kills. That's the reality. Raptors will come around and swoop in, take it from 9 kilometers, and you'll be feeding them kills.
Fair enough. SU-25?
I think if the enemy, it's hard to say. I don't like it. I don't. I think it's like something that I find gets punished very easily. But if you're able to exploit air defense, if you're not fighting perfect enemies, it can get super high value. So it's like
Yeah.
A10, whereas you're punishing for mistakes. Whereas
I mean, you kill one
you're not
helicopter,
looking
you're
to
happy.
create an opportunity. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're looking to punish, and especially if you're with a team that's targeting air defenses explicitly, and if the
Mm.
enemy isn't moving after they fire, you break down a few air defenses, and it can get insane value.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, James, the last game ran 4 of these, so the coastal and the motor version. It was, oh sorry, the mech and the motor version, and in all fairness, it was pretty beautiful to watch. So yeah, but obviously, as you say, against good players who can smoke and have decent air defense, have Raptors up, etc., F-18s with their 9K missiles, hard to get through. But kill one tank or one helicopter, you've broken even, so fuck it, go for it. And obviously any extra damage that it causes is absolutely worth it. This, I think, in summary, fantastic deck. Can be played in the center, on the flank. No issues with that whatsoever. Can support your entire team, no issues with that. Obviously, helicopter-wise, you are struggling. There's no doubt about that one. And with the air tab, you are absolutely going to be dependent on VDV players to help you out if you're planning on doing that coordinated anti-pack missions, sorties, seed sorties, all that sort of stuff. You are absolutely dependent on your team, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the thing that people try and do is, it's like everyone should run scene all these other stuff. Don't weaken a deck that is struggles in that area already by trying to do too much. Let VDV and these other, more specialized air decks really have their reign, because they'll be able to do it a lot better. And especially as Russia right now, air spamming and air bombing isn't as potent as it is for the United States. So don't try to fight the United States at what it does best, because you will never win.
Yeah, 100%. Nice. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up there. I've just shaved off 220 points by taking one Diversante and one BRM out. I think you're right. 2's enough. 4 is, you know what? I've never deployed 4. It's usually 2 on the field and 1 for reserve. So with the vehicles, I think that's justified in this deck to just drop it to balance it out. I mean, I could have dropped a Moto Pichota squad as well, but then, yeah. You win some, you lose some in this deck. But otherwise, yeah, this has been an absolute pleasure, mate. To be fair, I've learned a few bits as well, which I really am grateful for. And I think for people wanting to really get better, these videos are absolutely great. So honestly, thank you so much for helping me out with this one. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm always around to help, and it's always interesting to see the differences and kind of help improve people's understanding, like knowing what breakpoints are important. So the 15 HP breakpoint and the 17 HP breakpoint
Yep.
comparatively for the Hellfires and the J Sows, and all these little things that kind of is really just off the top of my head, and stuff that I know by second nature. Some people have no idea exist.
Yeah. No, good stuff. Exactly. I mean, yeah, the thing I learned is that the Asarkhan one shot. I mean, again, I'll definitely have to test it. I feel like I've definitely seen it absolutely shred Apaches before, but we'll do some testing on that. That's the only thing that I'm sort of doubting my memory now. But like I said, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, mate. And thank you all guys for watching. I hope it's been helpful, and please do let me know if you want more of these kinds of videos, because I'm absolutely happy to arrange them. Baltic DLC is going to be out soon. Trademark. Fucking joke. I mean, it's Tuesday today. They have 6
Baltic
days.
or National Guard?
Sorry, Russian Defense National Guard. Yeah, sorry, the Baltic DLC. God, so 6 months ago, bro. Anyway, that should be any minute. They're obviously buying their time. 6 days to go, and they haven't even done like a post for content creators or any sort of engagement, any news about when that's coming. But we're just gonna have to wait and see. As this deck is absolutely the meta for sure. Again, you are reliant on the air power from your teammates, but you know that's fine. Air sometimes does tend to feed a little bit. And we're going to have to, like, I will definitely, once the guards, Russian Defense Force, the Russian National Guard, whatever, why didn't they just call it Razgvardia? We all know that's what it's called. Just call it that. Once that comes out, obviously that's going to absolutely change the meta. I think that deck is going to be, we'll see about the price tag of the individual units, but that is going to be fucking overpowered. Like, that's going to throw a big spanner into the works, and honestly I just can't wait for that to drop. So hope you guys are excited too. We've done a giveaway on this channel as well. Please do check that out, and good luck to everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.